Hey, it's good to have you back here with me again. And, well, it's that time again. I really hope that life is treating you well. And I want to invite you to just go ahead and sit back, relax, grab yourself a little bit of a cool drink, and let's focus on this canvas here today. I've got the canvas turned horizontal, and I'm going to jump right into things. The colors are going to be flashing on the screen, just so you know what I'm using while we're doing this. And we're only going to be using a few colors. I'm going to get out my round brush, and let's open up a vat of odorless turpentine, because we're going to need it today. Let's see, I'm going to get a little bit of medium on here. We're going to do something a little different today. We're going to do something a little different. We're going to be using a canvas that's painted white, but the paint is dry. Oh yes, the paint is dry. Now that's kind of interesting, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. So it's going to make things a little more interesting when we finally paint this. Here, let's go ahead. Yeah, let's just go ahead and get a little bit of ultramarine on here. Yeah, ultramarine. We're just going to go right up in here, painting this color. And I've got a little bit of the medium on here, the odorless turpentine, just to make things a little slicker, a little easier when we paint this sky here. And it's going to be, even when I paint with a round brush like this, it's going to have a little bit of that X motion. And it's going to be a lot darker near the top than it is at the bottom. Now remember that. When you paint skies, they're going to be a lot darker at the top than they will be at the bottom. And we're going to continue this right about to here. And you don't have to worry about covering stuff up and all that, or going too far down, because you're always going to cover it up with, little things. Little things like mountains and trees and all that business. So if your sky goes down a little too far, who cares? Who cares? And we're just going to get a little bit of the white down here. We're going to dissipate that, aren't we? Yeah, we are. Here, there it goes. There it goes. And now we're going to go all the way across. All the way across. And this is a dry canvas. And this is how we do it. And we just go back down again. Pull them down, bring it up, whatever color we want, however we want. Yeah. Okay. Then we go right back up. That's how we do it. Okay, so we're going to be getting into some real colors now. And I'm going to set down my round brush for right now. We don't have to worry too much about that one. I'm not even going to clean it off. That's how cavalier I am today. Ooh, it's rolling away from me. This brush has got funny ideas about how this painting is supposed to go here. Let's get our tiny palette knife out, our small palette knife. And we're going to get, I'm going to take some of that blue, and I'm going to take a little bit of our reclaim here. This is just a mud color that we mix from all the colors on our palette. So whatever you mix together after you're done with this painting, that's what your color is going to be. Okay? It's not going to be a set number of colors or anything like that. On this painting today, we're only going to be using alizarin crimson, chrome yellow, and ultramarine. Along with white, of course. We just can't have an oil painting without white. That would be really impressive, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would be. Okay, let's go ahead and just grab the tiniest touch of our chrome yellow. All right, tiniest touch of our chrome yellow, and we want this to be a little orange. I think that's how this is going to go today. It's a little bit orange here. There it goes. That was a lot of the chrome yellow, actually. That was. That's okay. You know what I say? It's always best to use a little bit more color than you think you need to. Because in the end, you're going to wind up using more than you think you have to. And this alizarin is going to get this a little bit toward the color that we want. There we go. Take me away, alizarin crimson, and direct me toward the right color. Ooh. This is looking nice. Okay. There it goes. We're getting a lot of paint on this knife here, aren't we? Yeah, we're getting a lot of paint on here. Let's see how this looks. And you know what I say, always add a little bit more than you think you need. All right? All right, that's good. We got that. We got that. That's going to be our highlight color, okay? And that's going to be our highlight color. All right. Okay. Now we'll just go over here and maybe with a big old palette knife, because we're going to use both these. Need these big old palette knives out here. Let's get this ultramarine right here. Maybe we'll get a little bit of the alizarin in that. And then we'll get just a touch of that yellow in there. Okay? That's how we do it. And now we've got this muted color that's going to be perfect for just outlining a few things. Here, let's put the palette down while we really figure this out. Now, over here, we're going to see a lot of little mountains in the background. Like over here is going to be maybe this one right here. Okay. And he's going to be going down that way. Okay. Then maybe you got another little thing happen over there. Just like that. Just like that. In fact, maybe you want to bring it a little higher, you know? Maybe you want to bring it a little higher. I mean, if you want to bring it higher, go right ahead. No one telling you what to do here. Not a soul. Okay, now maybe we got some more, hills over this way, or mountains rather. And maybe we got a big old mountain that's like coming over right in here. I don't know. Yeah, we got a big old mountain right there. That's way off in the distance. That's way off in the distance. It's not a big mountain, but it's it's a big enough mountain, we'll say. There. Maybe this one just kind of flattens out a little bit. Maybe this one kind of, yeah, just like that. There it goes. There it goes. Let's set that knife aside. Let's go ahead and get the 1-inch, and we'll just pull out. And then that's all we do. That's all there is to it. And then you can go ahead and maybe pretend that, decide which mountains are going to be a little closer and which ones are going to be a little further away while you're doing this. Okay? That's all we got to do right there. That's all there is to that. That's no big deal, right? No big deal. Alright, let's take our palette back up and pull that paint down. Cut across. Got a little bit of a roll of paint on the knife there. After we pull the paint and just cut down, okay? Now we're going to take a look at this and just go, let the knife barely graze that canvas. Right? Let the knife barely graze it. Barely graze it. You can go over here and decide where you want things to be looking like, and maybe over here is all kinds of little things happen. Who knows? Maybe the light is coming over from, actually, I think I'm going to make an adjustment here and make the light come over from this way. Yeah. Make a little adjustment there. Why not? Here, we'll go ahead and correct this one right there. Or we won't correct it, but we're definitely going to add a little bit more shadow on that side. This one over here is going to be doing like that, and then we got this guy right over here. Maybe he's in front like this, and yeah, you don't have to be real exact with this. Ooh, got ourselves a little bit of hair on the palette there. We got a little bingo thing going here where if a certain thing happens on the show, then you could check off your bingo card, and one of them is I get paint on my palette, or another one is I get paint on myself. That one's even better. Sometimes I hoot like an owl. That's another one. Let's go over here. Maybe got stuff right in there. Maybe a couple of things there. Whatever you want to really just, We're going to miss this all out, and a lot of it's going to be covered up anyway, so let's not obsess over it. Okay. All right. Okay. Now let's take the other palette knife, and we're just going to add a little bit of white on here, and we're going to create a color that's a little bit more, get some of that blue in there, and make something a little bit more interesting up. Maybe we'll get some of that alizarin in. Check that color out. Make something a little bit more violet in here. Yeah, I know. It's pretty exciting stuff. Okay. Get a little bit of the violet in there, a little bit of that ultramarine. Yeah, check out that violet color we're getting. Now we'll just add a little bit more white, because you know what I like to say? Always make it a little brighter than you think it needs to be. Because it's almost definitely going to be darker than the highlight color. But is it going to be darker than this? Or is it as dark? If it is as dark, you want to add a little bit more white. Okay? And that's how we do it right there. And then on this other side, we'll just start adding this violet color. And maybe in all the nooks and crannies on the other side here, we'll add a little bit more of that. And anywhere you see like the dark color, you want to add a little bit of it, but don't demolish all your dark colors, because you want to leave a few of those just for everything to shine through. Okay. And like I say, let some of that just take over. Let that violet color just take you away. Okay, let's go in here, and maybe the little side of the knife. We're going down this way, yeah. And we're getting into all those little nooks and crannies right there. Think of it like an English muffin. Just hiding, waiting for you to get in there and eat it all up with that color. Well, maybe not eat it all up, but you know what I'm getting at. Okay. Yeah, that's the way right there. Got some real pretty colors happening. Isn't it amazing what we can do with just these colors? You don't need lots of colors to paint. No. You don't need lots of colors to paint. It really helps sometimes when you're painting certain things, but you don't need a lot of colors. You just need a few colors and imagination to go and paint the entire world. Okay, now let's go ahead and slop that back on the palette. I know, slop that. It's really descriptive, right? I'm going to roll up my paper towels here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a loose paper towel, because I want to save that paper towel roll for when I'm actually cleaning off brushes and stuff. Okay. This is going to be a little easier to clean off the knife right now, I think. Okay. There we go. And maybe that'll help us go a little faster. I'll be real careful cleaning off your palette knife, because, paint can get all up in the edges of those palette knives and really ruin your day. Okay. So here's what we're going to want to do. We're going to mist this out a little bit. Just mist it out a little bit. Mist it out. Okay? And thin up some of that paint. And, let's go ahead and, kind of tap in the direction of the mountain. Like if you see a dark, go ahead and tap in that direction. If you see a light, go ahead and tap in that direction. Alright, that's good. That's good. Not that there's any water in here, but this might help us. Okay. Now let's go ahead and focus on some of this more important stuff right now. Alright. Let's take our palette knife again, and let's take some of this color that we made up. Alright, we're going to take a little bit of that chrome yellow, and a little bit of that alizarin. Okay, and we're going to get us a nice yellow color. I think we might need a lot more of that yellow color in here. Okay, and I think this is going to make for a nice highlight color right there. Ooh, yeah. Ooh, that's looking pretty. That's looking pretty. Yeah, I don't want to lose that. Let's go ahead and make that even more yellow. Alright, and I'm just going to add a touch of the red in there. Touch of that crimson. Touch of the alizarin. Really brings it out, okay? Yeah, that's real nice. That looks real nice against that, doesn't it? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead and think about the darks that we're going to put in now. Let's go ahead and maybe get a little bit of... Ooh, I know I'm going to take a little bit of... Well, the alizarin this is going to be mostly alizarin in here. We're going to take some of that chrome yellow, and we're going to mix it up with some of this. And we're going to get ourselves a little bit of a burnt sienna color. We want something that looks very reddish. When I say burnt sienna, I mean an earth color, which looks kind of like dirt, and it's going to look very, very orange. Going to have kind of that. Yeah, that's the way. So we'll cut out there And now we'll pretend that we know what we're doing. And I'll pretend that we know what we're doing. Okay? And then right in here, right in here. Actually, let's go ahead and maybe clean off the little knife. Okay? Let's set this down right now. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm going to smear some of that old paint right back on there. Okay? And now, since this knife is quite dirty, I'm going to clean off a lot of the paint, which may be easier said than done because we have a lot of paint on here. Okay. And be sure you get your edges. Be sure you get your edges. Okay. There it goes. Whew. Now that was a filthy color. Palette up again with our knife and cut down there. Look at that. Well, actually, what am I doing? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go right in here and I'm going to scratch some things out. Because I want, yeah, right down in here. Right down here. I want to create my little guideline here. Sometimes it helps to know what you're going to do next. We got some serious mounds in here, so I'm going to be carving out a few things. And we have to paint a little bit of grass before we actually paint the mountains and stuff. So, you know, there's that too. But it really helps me to create my guidelines first so I know exactly what I'm going to be doing. And that way, you know, we'll go to right about here with that mound. Yeah. Don't be afraid to scratch stuff out. Don't be afraid to ruin what you've done. Because don't even think of it as ruining it, you know? Think of it as, well, making it the way it's supposed to be. And you don't have to scratch out everything, but you want to scratch out a lot of it. And we'll just go ahead and take some of this paint on that knife there and, you know, get some of that off. Here, let me just put this down for right now so I can really focus here. And then we're going to have a little bit of a, ooh, we're going to have this come on right over this way. Right over this way. Yeah. Okay, that's going to look real awesome right there. Okay. That's how we're going to do it. That's how we're going to do it. All right. All right. So, with our clean brush now, we've got one brush that's a little dirty. So we'll just set that down. Okay. Now let's take some of that ultramarine blue, some of that yellow, some of that mud color. Let's take a little bit more of that. There it goes. There it goes. All right, we got ourselves a happy looking color right there. We want this to be mostly ultramarine, I think. Mostly ultramarine. That way we're going to have a nice little color to work with when we finally tap this stuff in. All right. Okay. So right about in here. Okay. Right about in there. And over this way. Okay. We'll have a little bit of something going on here. We're just tapping in a few darks. We're not going to tap in all the darks right now. I'm not going to tap all of them in. What I will have, though, let's see here. Let's see. What I do want is a little bit more of a chisel edge on this. And you do that by laying your brush down and wiggling it. And notice how the brush gets a lot flatter when you do that. You lay the brush down almost at a very slight angle to the palette and the paint, and you wiggle it through the paint. Okay? So then, right about here, let's go there. Okay? Yep, there it is. Wiggle both sides. There you go. And now you've got some bushes. And I'm just going to put in that one because, well, we got some other stuff we need to do. Now that's a good bush. That's a good bush. Now when you do this, you want the paint to be a little darker at the bottom than at the top. Because you know how shadows are. They tend to hit things harder at the bottom. Alright? Okay. We got that hit in. Now let's go ahead and wipe off the center brush. Maybe wipe that off a little bit more. Okay. Show that brush who's boss. And we'll go and wipe it off. Okay? That's all there is to cleaning a brush off. Alright. And we'll take some of that chrome yellow. Okay. And maybe we'll go over here. Just a little bit of the red. There it is. There's that color I'm looking for. Now that's a neat looking color right there. Okay. Now we'll just give us a little bit of a encouragement from this side, just like that. And over here we'll hit this. Just like that. And then, well, I don't know if we'll do much with this one, but we'll go ahead and hit that just like that. Okay. Maybe you want to bend the bristles up, then bend them to the side like that, in order to really capture the essence of that. Okay. Now my bucket here, I have it filled with Ordos turpentine, and I have a grating at the bottom that I use to rinse off the paint. I tap it, then I wipe it, and then I show it who's boss. Okay. Be careful doing that or you won't have many friends left. You do that when you're by yourself, not when you have company. Finally, I wipe the brush on the side of the roll of paper towels there, and we're good to go. Okay, so let's go ahead now with our burnt sienna-ish color. Alright, and I'm gonna, well, you want to scrub this color in, because that's what you do with mountain-esque stuff, right? And you know, if you cover a little bit of what you just did, you know, whatever. Don't let it bother you. Okay. Just keep going. Keep going. There it goes. Okay, now over here. We're going to picture this and go right there. This mound right here, or this mountain, is going to go ahead and cover that one, that little bush. Alright. So that's a good thing right there. There we go. And this is going to kind of just sneak behind there. Alright. So we're cheating a little bit. Instead of doing this the way we probably should have, we just did it a different way. That's okay. It's okay. If you want to bring this a little higher, go right ahead. You can bring this as high as you want, actually. Go nuts. Okay. Yep. There we go. There we go, right there. Right there. That's looking spiffy. Not bad. Not bad at all. Okay. So, here's what we can do with our clean brush. We can go ahead and pull that paint all around. Push her around to get exactly the way we want for the base coat. Alright? Go right up there. Now, like a ninja with a brush. That's all that is. And we'll just pull that down because, you know, who cares? Who cares? And this one can, this one can go down too because who cares? But this one, whoo boy, well, you know how it is. Ooh. You know how it is. The light's going to be hitting it a little differently. highlight's going to be hitting it a little differently. Okay. All right. Let's go in now with this large brush, or large palette knife rather. Let's make some decisions, I think. Ooh, I don't know what I want to do. Well, that's always a good sign. I don't know what I want to do. No, it's all good. I've got a pretty good plan here. I think I know what I want. I've already got the highlight all whipped up, right? So let's go in with the highlight. Cut a little of that off. And right here, we'll... And one of the best things about this is that you don't want to mix your color up a little too much. Just drag the knife down. That's all there is to it. And maybe you decide on a few different things in here. Maybe this is got all kinds of ridges on it, so try to make them fall like the general shape of the mountain, like that, or the mound, whatever. And this one right here, I know we're making all kinds of crazy noises, aren't we? We don't really need to do that, but I like it. And maybe over here, the light's not hitting that quite as much. Okay. And over here, we'll be doing a few different things, okay? Because we got some gnarly stuff happening over on this mountain right here, this little hill. From this here, it looks kind of like a hill, right? Yeah, a little bit. Alright. And you don't have to get, too fastidious about things. Just go in right there. Okay. That looks pretty good. We got that taken care of, so let's go ahead and wipe off the knife, because we don't need that color quite so much now. No, we do not. And now let's go ahead with another burnt sienna style color. Take a little bit of this and maybe we'll just add some white to it, Yeah, we'll add some white to that. Maybe we'll take a little bit of that color that we mixed up here, add a little bit of the yellow, add a little bit of the crimson, chrome yellow, and some crimson. That's all we're using here. That's all we're using. Maybe I want a little bit more yellow on that, just to make it a little bit more. Ooh, do we got a hair here? Ooh, that's another one for the bingo card. Well, maybe not, because we already got that one filled out on the bingo card. I gotta knock something over, maybe. Hold on, I should just use my hand for this, even though it gets pain in my fingers. I guess that's one for I got pain in myself. Yeah, I got a little bit of pain in myself. Oh boy, another hair? Come on. Well, as I say, that is one of the trials and tribulations of painting, especially when you have long hair. When you got long hair, it gets in your paint all the time, and sometimes it gets funny ideas about what's supposed to happen. Here, let's add a little bit more white on that. Now remember, you want this to be lighter than that. Okay, so this is going to look a little bit like a flesh tone almost. In fact, it looks very much like a flesh tone, depending on how much of a ratio of color you have. If you got not enough white, maybe it looks less like a flesh tone. Okay, let's go ahead, cut across, get a little roll on the knife there. Get our little roll. And right here. Oh, ooh. Okay. Now all those areas where here, maybe we can use the little side of that. There it goes. All those areas where you didn't get quite as much of that yellow on there, we can go ahead with this orange looking color and just, give it a little bit of encouragement. Yeah. Okay. There. Just like that. Looking good. Maybe a lot more down there. What the heck? Yeah, just a little bit in there. And we'll go down here. Maybe. There. Yeah. You know, we'll just do the same thing. Pick out all those little dark areas where you didn't really do anything with it, and just go ahead and insert, you know, this tone that we got here. Yeah, this little bit of a tone. Okay. Yeah, I'll make that look a little bit more lively. All right, and then over here we're gonna have a little something that's gonna, you know, just change with the times. I know it sounds like the earth is moving, right? Now, when you got a little bit of a ridge like this little does, you don't want to. Okay. You don't want to mess with things too much. Just try to follow the direction of it, like that, okay? Yeah, follow the direction of that. And then, ooh, alright. There it goes. Maybe some of these have more on there than others. And maybe some of that color is following through. And some of the other colors peeking through too, you know? Yeah, that looks sweet. That looks cool. Okay. Alright, we're almost done with the mountains, but we gotta add one more color to this side over here. And this is gonna be kind of the same color we're gonna use for these little hills down in front. Alright? It's gonna be a real fun looking color, I think. I think it's gonna be really interesting. Okay. So let's clean off the knife now. Be sure you get all the paint off all sides of it, okay? Watch out for those sides, because they'll trip you up. They'll trip you up, and they'll get all kinds of weird colors in your painting that you don't want, and then they'll make your life absolutely miserable. All right. So I know what color we're going to use for this. We're going to add a little bit of white to this color that we used for the background, right? Now we want to add a little bit more violet on here, so let's add a little bit of blue and a little bit of alizarin. Okay, and that's all there is to that. And we're already right in the ballpark of where we want to be. But you know what I say? Whenever you think something's light enough, make it a little bit lighter. Go one step further. If you think it's dark enough, make it a little darker. If you think it's bright enough, add a little bit more. And right here, I'm going to add one touch more, just like that. And I've got enough that I can do, I think, all the mountains now, okay? And, you know, don't overmix this. Don't overmix it. You're going to have a tendency, you're going to have a thought in your head that you should keep mixing, but you know what? Don't overmix, okay? All right, that's all we need right there, okay? We're going to go down this hill now. This little hill and just right there. Okay, that's all there is to that. You know, if you get a little bit of paint, okay, right in there. Okay. Yeah. And look how that kind of breaks and creates all kinds of little dark areas automatically. I don't know that we even need to add a middle tone in there because it looks already so neat, right? I think that looks pretty decent, actually. I mean, I guess we could. What we could do is using some of our color over here. We could add a little bit of some of this color here, maybe add a little bit of our mud color, all right, and add a little bit of the alizarin, okay, add a little bit of the alizarin like that, and maybe a little touch of blue, and another little touch of blue. Oh, this blue is just touching everything, isn't it? Yeah, a little bit. Okay. And now you can pull that out and check how it looks. up against all that. You know, if that looks okay, then go in. Go in with that little color you made. Feel free to add as much as you want in all those little dark areas, because you know, maybe things kind of went your way, maybe things didn't. Maybe you covered a lot of this, maybe you covered only a little. You know, cover as much as you really feel like. Okay. All right, and that's good. We don't have to do anything more with that. Okay. And I'm going to try to salvage as much of that paint as I can, because that's going to be a valuable color. That's mostly just, you know, a little bit of mud mix with a little bit of violet from the alizarin and the blue. Okay, now we can go in here and really add a few things. Now, what I want to do, you know what I'm going to do. You know what I'm going to do. Actually, let's take a 2-inch brush here and let's go ahead and mist some of this stuff out. Okay, just like that. You know, maybe we got some of this happening over here, and maybe we got that happening there, and this is going on over here. What we're doing is just making this a little thinner for the layers to come. Make it a little easier to paint on. Little easier to paint on. No shame in that, right? All right. Okay. No shame in that at all. Okay. Let's go ahead now with this brush, and we're going to take this mix here with the alizarin and the chrome yellow and the ultramarine, and we're going to go mostly ultramarine on this, mostly ultramarine. All right. So right in here, we're going to right in there. Okay. Okay, and maybe right in here. All right, and a lot of that is going to be covered up anyway, so we're not going to think about it too hard. Maybe over here too. Yeah, we'll just have a little rolling thing right there, a little rolling hill. Yeah, and a few bushes along the way and all that. Okay. Right here, we're going to have this little bush right here. In fact, I'm going to take it a little higher. All right, now remember, when you make a bush like this, you can turn the bristles around and then turn them around again. And you can make those bristles bend into the shape of a bush. And that's why this makes such a good foliage brush, all right? Alright, we've got all that. Let's go ahead with our other foliage brush. And this one looks a little dirty. So we'll clean that off and then we'll show it who's boss. Okay. We'll wipe it off now. Okay, now we're going to have a little bit of fun here. I think we'll just pull out some of that chrome yellow. All right, and maybe we'll tap this paint in and we'll pull it through, because we want this to be not too bright of a color. We want to have a little bit of drama on this, don't we? Yeah, a little bit. Just like that. And that's all there is to that. And maybe we'll get a touch of the alizarin in there and just mix it up. Perfect. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll go ahead and, we'll just make a little. And you don't cover everything. I want to save a little bit of those dark colors in there. Save a little bit of them, because they're going to show you. They're going to show you. Let's put one right there. Okay, that looks pretty. I like that. Yeah, let's get a little bit more of the lizard in there, just to brighten or make things a little bit more interesting. Because maybe we're going to have a little bit more of an orangey color in here, right? Ooh, yeah, we're going to have quite the color right about there. There. Oh, yeah, that's the stuff right there. Okay. And maybe in here. Okay. I'm going to use a little bit more blue on that. Okay. Just to really capture some of this here. There. So capture some of this color in here. Looking good right there. Yep. Looking good. Okay. And to capture some of these colors over in these plants here, we'll just get a little bit of chrome yellow. And then there it goes. Yeah, that's about all we need to do for that right there. We can add maybe a couple of things in here. Yeah, why not? Why not? It's not hurting nothing. Okay. Looking good. Okay. It may look like I'm just popping things in wherever, but that's not necessarily the case. What I do is I try to look for where the light is going to be on these things, and I try to imagine where it's going to be, and I just pop it in there. Now, don't get me wrong, we're popping things in, but still, you want to have it be a controlled type of popping. Alright, so let's go ahead now, and let's go in with, ooh, I think I'm going to use a violet color for this. So let's go ahead and, I like this. What color we use over there? We used something a little bit more. We used something a little bit more violet-y, I think. So I'm going to create that. I'm going to get just a light touch of the chrome yellow on this, because we need this to be a dark color. And when you need a dark color, you really, really, really do not want to get the mud mix, because the mud mix has a lot of white in it. Well, because white is one of the colors you use, and inevitably it's going to get in there. Okay? Alright, so let's just go ahead now and, try to imagine where all these little hills are going. Right here. Okay. Yeah. This is where it really gets fun. When we start carving away a lot of what we did. And start filling in with some interesting little, filling in the interesting blanks. Okay, yeah, right there. And then right over here is where it's going to continue. Yeah, this is a big one. This is a big one that goes all the way over here. Alright. Goes all the way down here. And here's the point. Right here. There's the point where it stops. Right about in there. Okay? Don't be afraid to go in there and get that. You go and get that. Okay? Alright, let's go ahead and save some of that color. And I think, well, right in here there's going to be another thing happening. I think, let's go ahead and use this brush to kind of smooth things out. Yeah, this is going to go all the way over here, actually. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. There it goes. There it goes. Alright, so this is going to go down here to this point, right there. All right. And this is going to go all the way over here. Wow. That's a big little mound. Big little mound. Big little mound. Okay. Yeah, we have fun here. We have fun. Okay. Okay. Now, how do I imagine something like this is going to be depicted, do you think? Well, you can use your imagination here. I'm going to get my little knife out, and we're going to get some of that light color that we got here, and we're going to go pulling it down this way. Because maybe, yeah, okay, who knows, maybe we're going to pull it down this way, alright? Now imagine there's all kinds of stones, all kinds of pebbles in there, and they're all trying to make their way to the exit as fast as they can, and maybe the sun is hitting this just right, and you know, we got kind of this thing going on over here, just like that. And maybe, oh, there's a little bit of a, just let the knife barely graze. Just let the knife barely graze, and it goes over this way, and it goes over here. You know, it's getting real creative like that. Getting real creative, just like that. Okay. And here we are. Big moment right in here. Yeah, the sun's going to kind of be hitting it a bunch of different ways. That's the thing about this, is that, you know, hills like this are really uneven. They're really uneven, you know? So you can't afford to get too crazy about which way you're going to paint them. You just got to paint them. You got to get it in there, okay? And, you know, maybe you got another one right there, okay? Now, all this is going to be like some shadow right here. All that is going to be just a little bit of shadow. And maybe we got like a rim of light that's kind of just grazing the top of this whole thing like this, you know? Yeah, we got that right there. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. There we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll save that. Now we'll get this other knife, the one where we use the dark color. You know what I really need? I need a third knife, so I can do all three steps here without, you know, cleaning things off. Yeah, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? A little bit. Okay. Okay. Let's get this color right here. We'll go in with, you know, just a little touch of that. Look at that. There we go. That's the way. Anywhere you left some dark, go ahead and give it a little bit of a graze, just like that. Yep. Yep, that's how we're going to do it. Okay. That's how we're going to do it. In fact, you know what? I think I like the violet color better for the mid-tone. So let's get some of that. Here, let's get some of that and use that instead. There. There. That's not too hard to recreate. There. Does that look nice? Yeah, I like that. Here. Again, just graze the canvas. Graze it. Okay. Don't let it worry you none if you hit something. If you don't like what you've done, you can just cover it. And if you cover it too much, you can always scratch it out, because that's what the knife is for. Alright? Don't let these things worry you. You'll be okay. Alright? Now, I wasn't thinking about making a violet color earlier, so I don't have a lot of this color. But I think we're going to spend some time making it in a second. Okay? Okay, so let's go ahead now And with this, let's go ahead and add some white. All right. We'll just add some white to that color. I don't want to completely ruin everything though. So we'll just add a little bit of blue. Add a little bit of the alizarin. There it goes. Okay. There it goes. Yep. That's about the same color. Might be a little different. Might be a little different, but you know what? Whatever. Go ahead and just mix it in with all the other stuff if it is a different color. There it goes. But be sure you hit all the other stuff that you need to hit. Like over here, I need to hit that, and over there, I need to hit all this stuff. There it goes. Okay. There we go. There we go. Looking good. Okay. Okay. Here. Let's wipe as much as I can back on the palette. Set this down and give this a little wipe off. There. And get the edge of the knife too, because you don't know what's on there. You don't know where that knife's been. Well, I guess technically you kind of do, don't you? Yeah, I suppose you do. Suppose you do know. Alright, let's take some of that dark color. And let's go over this way. And let's go over this way. I think that, well, let's go ahead and maybe cover a few things in here. There. This one is going to go all the way over to this little spot right here. So let's go ahead and draw our line right here. Alright. That's where that has to go. And if we have to, we'll go ahead and create a few more little things over here. Maybe, ooh, we need to find a little spot, don't we? Yeah, we need a little bit of a spot. Okay, well, let's go ahead here. Yeah, let's take over this spot here. Take a little bit of that ultramarine there with the alizarin and a little bit of the blue. And then we'll just create, we'll keep adding blue and alizarin till it looks just right. Does that look about right? I think that looks about right. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be about right. We can add a little bit more blue if we feel like it, but I don't think we need to worry about it too much. Okay. That's how that looks. There. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to really get in here and cover some of the stuff that you've done. I know I keep telling you that, but I just really want you to, I really want to emphasize that you don't need to be afraid of it. I really want to emphasize it. Because there's no fear here. There's no judgments if you're going to, completely bungle your painting. You know what I mean? Look for the simple shapes and mountains and stuff, or hills and all that. Because all those simple shapes are really going to help you figure out how to make a piece like this, how to paint a landscape. Everything is made up of simple shapes like that. And simple shapes, they really guide us. Okay? There you go. Just look at that. And this one over here is pretty much the same deal. We'll go over here and we'll carve out a few things because, we got to go this way with it. Yeah, there we go. And this one's going to go just over here. It's all good. It's all good. There. You are already made. Okay. Alright, so that dark color's in. And we can go ahead and add our light colors now. Thank goodness, right? I know, thank goodness. That's a load off. That is a load off. Okay. let's go ahead with this light color. Yeah, let's go ahead and use the little knife for this because he's been a real trooper. He's been waiting by the sidelines here, and we don't want to keep him waiting any longer. Alright, just like that. Well, that's too much paint here. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. And this color right here is gonna be a little lighter against everything we've done. There. And if the colors have a little bit more red or blue in them or whatever, it's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world. Okay. Okay. Now let's go over here and try to let that little hill take whatever it wants. There. If you want to try this with a round brush, that might be even easier. Who knows? You can do this with any brush, really. You don't have to do it with a knife. But I choose to do it with a knife because generally it's a lot easier. There. Okay. Just like that. And over here, there's this one coming down right there. Yeah, just like that. Alright. Okay. Alright, up in here. Okay. There it goes. There it goes. Okay. And let's see if we got all the shapes right over in this one. At least we can get the highlights here, right? All right. There it goes. Okay, there she goes. There. Okay. That's the way. All right. So we got a lot of that done. We're getting pretty far along, aren't we? Yeah, we are. We sure are. Feels pretty good. Feels really good, actually. Let's go ahead now and take some of that color, that violet color, and we'll go in here. And oh dear. I want to use my big palette knife for this because, you know how it is. Sometimes it's just a little easier that way. Okay. There. And there. There we go. Again, anywhere you see that doesn't have enough of that color in it, or it's got too much dark in it. Alright, right here. Alright. There it goes. If you see any pinholes poking through, go ahead and get those. Sometimes it's a little easier to turn the knife like this and get all those little things, you know. sometimes it's just like that. Sometimes it is like that. Okay. Looking real nice. Okay, let's go ahead now. Take that color, get a little bit more of the alizarin, the blue, add some white, and we'll add some more white. And we'll add a little bit of the mud in there just for good measure. To dull it down a little bit, you know. Yeah, dull it down a little. Feels like it's still really, really, really red. I don't want it to be really red. I want this to be a lot bluer. Okay. Now it's starting to look pretty good. Now it's starting to look better. Okay. Alright. And we'll just take a little bit of the yellow to dull that down some. Okay. And we'll check to see how that looks. That doesn't look too bad. So, if that doesn't look too bad, we can go ahead and use it over here. And, you know, if you want to hedge your bets, go ahead and use it over on the other side too. There. There. Okay. There. Looking decent. Looking pretty decent. Whew. Now there's another one for the bingo card right there. Hoop like an owl. Yeah. Yeah, I have a tendency to do that. I have a tendency to do it. Admittedly. Okay. Yeah, I'm just inserting it in a few places. Like I said, hedging my bets. Okay. And over here, why not? Okay. We got that. Let's go ahead and clean this knife off. No worries. Okay. Let's go ahead now with our big old round brush. We're gonna get a lot of paint on this, okay? And well, we've already got a lot of paint on the brush, but we'll just kind of right along here. We'll add a couple of things here in a second. There. I want this to be a little bluer. I want this to be a little bluer, okay? All right. Yeah. Now, there's not going to be any water in here, so I want to be a little careful about what I'm doing. A little careful. Okay. Put a little bit more white in there and there. Okay. Right in there. Hey, let's go ahead and maybe carve some of this in away Just like that. That's actually a pretty thick wad of paint I just pulled off. Okay. Okay. There it goes. Whew. Hooting like an owl again. There we go. There we go. Okay. Let's pull that off. Alright, show that who's boss. And then we'll wipe it down. Alright. Now, let's go ahead with, ooh, I think I'll take my 1-inch. Okay. Show that who's boss. Give this the old wipe down. Okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a little bit of ultramarine. Alright. And then we'll get some of that yellow with the alizarin. And this is going to be mostly chrome yellow. A lot of chrome yellow on this. Okay. Alright, we got that. Now let's get this other brush with all the stuff on it. Yeah, it really just narrows it down, right? The stuff. Alright. Okay. So, let's go in here. After we wiggle the paint through. And maybe, let's do this. Okay. We got that. And maybe we got this in here. Yeah, that's how we do it. Yeah. And we got ourselves a little bit of some bushes and stuff in there. And we got another one happening. There. Tap that into the bristles right there. That one's happening right there. Okay. And we'll get this one right here. And this one over here. Okay. And you know, when you do that kind of stuff, what do you say? Get a little bit of the foliage on there. Try to follow the lay of the land and all that. Sometimes for me what helps is like tapping it from the bottom, like this. And maybe, yeah, that's nice. And maybe another one over there. Right here. Over here. And I don't know. Kind of just all over these things, you know. Maybe over here on this one. Maybe. Kind of just got something that goes all the way down there. You know? Yeah, maybe we do. Maybe we do. Maybe we got... Maybe we got a color here that kind of just... goes all the way across. And we'll just get a lot of that color. Okay. Maybe, well, we'll save that for maybe another brush. There, just like that. Turn it around. You know, we can create all kinds of little shapes. We're just blocking in shapes here. That's all we're doing. All right, another one right there. Okay. And here's where everything kind of changes. All right. There it goes. Very good. Maybe. There's a little bit of a change. All right. A little bit of a change there. And we got a little bit more alizarin in here now. You know? Yeah. Who knows? Well, you know what I say. You want to try and get these things so they're a little darker at the bottom. Alright. There it goes. There we go. That's a little better. Alright. So now, let's go in with our highlight brush. Our highlight brush with this chrome yellow color, and we'll go ahead and we'll just we'll just do some stuff. There it goes. Yeah, that's all there is to this. And set that brush down, and maybe let's get our round brush here, and right here. That's right. We'll just go and give these things some love taps here and there, because maybe that's all these little colors need. Sometimes all these little things need is a little TLC. Okay. There. Maybe. Okay. There it goes. There it goes. Maybe we'll outright just put some yellows up in here. Because maybe there's some yellows up in there. Okay. Refine a few things up in there. Okay. And maybe we'll stack a couple up in there. Maybe we'll add a little bit of alizarin. Okay. We'll add a little bit of alizarin to our chrome yellow. And maybe we'll throw that on. Maybe we'll throw a lot of alizarin in there. Because why not? There. Now that's looking pretty interesting. Maybe there's one down here, and I don't know. One down in here. it's real lively down in there. I don't know. Maybe we got lots of stuff that's kind of just happening over in here. Yeah, stuff like that. Stuff that's kind of just all over the place here. There it goes. And we'll get a little bit more alizarin in that. Why not? It's going to be right in here. Come on. There it goes. There it goes. And I think we're going to get some of that color up in this part right here. Okay. And then maybe around all these little areas over here where we got a bunch of orange and reddish looking brush and stuff, we got some of this kind of just grown in. There. There we go. There. Yeah. Yeah, that looks cool. Okay. Yeah, that does look mighty cool, doesn't it? Yeah, you never know. You might have a few more of these things. Maybe you got a little bit more of the alizarin, kind of just gracing this foliage over here with its presence. You got some of that over there. The thing about this is you want these colors not to look too bright green. You want to have kind of that orangish kind of flavor about it, you know? Yeah. Sometimes I get a little too much paint on my brush. Imagine you're painting this with like a yellow ochre or something. Yellow ochre is just a kind of a yellow. Well, it's a yellow color, just like it sounds like. And a lot of painters use it to paint like real brownish yellows and stuff, as you might expect. Here, we'll paint some of those over here. We'll just add a few up in here, maybe a few over in here. Okay. Yeah, there it goes. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and maybe add a little bit more yellow in there. A little bit more yellow into the mix. I would feel better if we did, because, I don't know, some of this stuff looks a little dull for my taste. There. There she goes. Here, a little bit more of this action going on. Maybe we're getting a little bit of the alizarin up in there. Kind of got like weeds and stuff growing. There it goes. Maybe over here we got some more of these dark greens and things. Just add a little smidge of that chrome yellow in there and get some of the get some of that, and we'll just go in under here. There. Okay. Just like that. Okay. Now let's take whatever else we might think we need. Maybe we'll go in here with this, because maybe that's going to define our painting a little better. Just add some darks back in. Yeah, I know. Sometimes you got to add darks back in. It's nothing big. Nothing big. Okay. Maybe we'll take a little bit more of the alizarin here with some of that green color. And we'll just, okay, it's right in there. Maybe we don't have enough medium on there, huh? Maybe we need more of that odorless turpentine on this one. There. Make that all liquidy. That's good. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm just fiddling around with this too much. I guess part of me just wants to really get the right colors. You don't always get the right colors, but you try to get the right colors. You try. Okay. Alright. Well, let me just tap a little bit of alizarin up in this section right here. Okay. Maybe that'll be the end of that. Okay. Alright. I think we can about stop there. Alright. Show that who's boss one last time. And wipe off the brush. Alright. Let me really wipe that off because I didn't wipe it off well enough. There it goes. There it goes. Okay. Well, we got that taken care of. Alright. So let's take our liner brush now and, well, tell you what, I'm going to run through my remnants of my vermilion here because I don't have much vermilion on the palette right now. Truth be told, I don't really have any. Ooh, looks like I'm kind of getting a little hair there. Am I getting a hair? Ooh, I don't have a hair quite on the brush yet. Okay. Okay. Well, let's go in here. Get the paint all liquidy. And S. K. I'll just go with the old initials like that. And that's how you know this painting's finished. Because we just signed it. And we're not going to add anything to it this time because I think it looks pretty decent. Does it look decent? Yes, it looks pretty decent. I could add some stuff. I could add some stuff like right in here maybe. Yeah, this is like the only thing that I think I'll do. I'll go down in here. Yeah. Right in there. Right in there. Okay. Wipe that on the old. Alright. And we'll add just a little bit of something down here to accentuate all the what we just created. There. Just like that. And finally, okay, wipe that off. And we'll just add a little bit of this. A little bit of that. Okay, that's good. Alright. That's good. Alright. I think that's about it for this painting. Really hope you enjoyed this one. I know I fiddled around with it a little bit too much, but I think this one was a really nice painting. I think you'll have a lot of fun with you if you try it out. And I hope you do, because this one is a nice exercise in, well, using the round brush as well as using the palette knife. And you use this 1-inch brush here a little bit too. We haven't cleaned all of our brushes off yet, but it's about time for me to head out. So until then, next time, of course, with love from me to you, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.